Though not all women were married, the common assumption that all women would marry meant that women were treated as though they were married. Not all women were white, suburban, married, or out of the labor market. So we need to place the story of June Cleaver in a historical context. Think about the early post-war years, the late 1940s and 50s for a minute. Remember that the Iron Curtain separating the communist from the non-communist world had fallen in 1947. The United States lost China in 1949 when the communists finally won their long war to gain control over the country. And in 1949, too, the Soviets exploded their first atomic bomb, threatening the United States and the world with potential nuclear war and starting off the nuclear race. By the early 1950s, the Soviets and the United States were engaged in a battle to see who could produce the biggest and most powerful hydrogen bomb. In 1950, the Truman administration went to war in Korea, an undeclared war designed to thwart Chinese territorial ambitions. In 1954, the Soviet Union and the US launched a space race that culminated in 1957 when Sputnik circled the Earth. The United States seemed to be coming in second in a frantic competition for space. Internally, these events fueled fears of subversion. Wisconsin Senator Joseph McCarthy ranted about the prevalence of communists in federal government and other sensitive jobs. Accused spies, Alger Hiss, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, and Senate hearings dominated the news. An escalating fight against communism, amounting to panic, turned to the family and religion to save America from the consequences of the spies who supposedly lived within its borders. The role of the housewife in that context was to be a model mother, to raise her children as good citizens. Her job was to so support and construct the family that it would become a fortress against the ideological threats of the outside world. Mothers could play a role in identifying subversive school teachers or libraries that had the wrong kinds of books. They became crucial warriors in the war for freedom and democracy. Foreign events provoked domestic reactions that tested the loyalty and the patriotism of the American family. They promoted the idea that women were a valuable resource politically. Much as they desired to go out to work to help their husbands, they were told that they ought to consider that their volunteer labor, their efforts to train the family at home, could shape the family into a strong bulwark for American freedom. As they became increasingly active on school boards and in the community, women would buffer ideological threats. They could save the world from communism if they stayed at home. If containing communism was roughly contingent with the containment of women within the home, then non-traditional or rebel women seemed particularly threatening. Historians have noticed that in the 1950s, the suburban housewife drew wide approval. But the independent woman who did not live by the codes of suburbia was a particular threat. A successful professional or career woman, a lesbian, a woman who chose not to marry, all these women were described as mannish, not real women at all. Homosexuals of both sexes, male and female, were especially harassed. Their sexual behavior defined as criminal, they were routinely raided, arrested, and sometimes subject to imprisonment and unwanted medical treatment. Lesbian and gay teachers lost their jobs because it was thought they would provide bad models for children. Subject to blackmail in the McCarthy period, lesbians and gays were accused of being subversive, unsafe for the government to hire. Yet, despite the persecution, many refused to masquerade as June Cleaver. Historian Joan Meyrowitz tells us that rebels increased in numbers in the 1950s.